We had just finished tidying up after dinner when she caught my attention. "Darling, could you bring us a couple of drinks and meet me in the living room? There's something we need to discuss, a more serious version of we need to talk." Her request didn't exactly fill me with anticipation for the conversation, but I complied obediently. Amelia and I had been together for almost 2 years, and we were set to marry next Saturday, precisely 2 weeks and 5 days from today. We were already cohabiting and enjoying a satisfying, passionate relationship, remarkably so, I might add, considering it began just 3 months after we started dating. I harbored no doubts about our relationship or our impending marriage. As I pondered what this conversation could entail, we settled onto the couch, each taking a sip from our drinks. It was evident that Amelia was struggling to broach the topic, so I decided to offer some assistance. "Is something troubling you, Amelia? Are you thinking of leaving me?" I ventured, observing the horror that flashed across her face. "Oh, William, no," she replied urgently, taking my hand. "I love you and plan to spend the rest of my life with you. I can't wait to marry you. It's not that." "Then what is it, darling?" "You know you can talk to me about anything," I reassured her. "I understand my love. It's just, well, this is a conversation I've been dreading for years, though it's still difficult to initiate," Amelia confessed, her tone weighted with apprehension. I squeezed her hand gently, offering my support. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," I assured her. With a relieved smile, Amelia finally decided to voice her concerns. "William, you know how close-knit my family is, and how much they adore you," she began. I nodded in understanding. While my own family was loving, Amelia's familial bonds were notably stronger. "And you know how much I cherish them," she continued. "I've expressed to you before the significance of your relationship with my family, and it's exceeded even my highest expectations. However, as our wedding approaches in just a week, there's one final tradition that needs to be addressed. Consider it a familial custom, something my kin have upheld for generations to unite us as a family. In our family, whenever a marriage takes place, it symbolizes the addition of a new member to our tight-knit unit. It's a way of drawing them closer. It may sound a bit unconventional, but as we discussed, I'll be staying with my parents starting tonight, and you won't see me until I walk down the aisle with my father on our wedding day. However, the night before the wedding, you'll be spending time with my mother. I have a deep fondness for my mother, as you know, and they say a glimpse of a woman's future can be seen in her mother. Let's just say I'm pleased with the prospect. So, you and my mother will go out to dinner, chat, and truly get to know each other. Dinner and conversation will undoubtedly be part of the evening, but that's not the tradition I'm referring to. I need you to understand this, William. You'll be spending Friday night with my mom. It wasn't even a consideration on my list of things to anticipate, and I could tell by your reaction that it caught you off guard. You're serious, aren't you? Absolutely. My dear, in my family, we believe that the bond formed between the future spouse and the respective parent solidifies their place in the family. This tradition has been passed down for generations. My father did this with my grandmother, Harper, as legend has it, and my grandfather, Lucas, with Olivia's great-grandmother, and so forth, through countless generations. You've witnessed the strong bond between my father and grandmother, and now you understand why. Now, I understand this is a lot to process. You don't have to make a decision right away. The time you spend with my parents this week will give you a chance to mull it over. But bear in mind its importance. You can refuse, of course, but that would mean we couldn't proceed with the wedding, and we'd have to part ways. I know this might be overwhelming, but take your time. An hour ago, I was eagerly anticipating my upcoming wedding day, looking forward to uniting with the most incredible woman I've ever known, with whom I wished to spend my life. Then, out of the blue, I was presented with something that, at first glance, I found morally objectionable. If I didn't agree to it, not only would our wedding be called off, but I'd lose her entirely. Suddenly, my lunch seemed discontent with its place in my stomach. Without a word, I leaped off the couch and dashed to the bathroom. Thankfully, our apartment wasn't too large, so the toilet made its presence felt. I remained there until there was nothing left but air, and my abdominal muscles cried for mercy. Amelia was right behind me when I finally mustered the courage to turn away from the porcelain god and conclude my prayer, slumped on the floor beside it. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Okay, baby," I replied, staring at her as if she had sprouted green heads on both sides of her neck. "No, Amelia, I'm not okay. I've just been informed that I have to do something I find morally questionable at best, or I'll lose the love of my life forever. Isn't there any room for maneuver in your family tradition? Any provision for a man who loves you with all his heart and soul, but feels uneasy about what you're asking for?" "No, dear. I'm sorry," Amelia responded sullenly. Mom was once engaged to someone before Dad, and he refused to comply. He thought it was wrong. She left him that very day and never spoke to him again. "But we can break the cycle, Amelia," I pleaded. "We could elope to Vegas and get married there." The shock on Amelia's face at my suggestion made me realize my mistake. "William, you astonish me," she retorted. "I would never dishonor my parents or our family in such a way. And if you think I would, then you don't know me at all." Deep down, I knew she was right. I attempted to apologize. "It's all right, darling. I understand it was a massive shock." Amelia reassured me. "That's why I brought it up. Now that you have a week to think about it." Suddenly, a terrifying thought struck me. "My God, Amelia, if I were to agree to this, and we had a daughter, then you would—" I trailed off, unable to voice my dread. "Yes, William, that's part of it. But if we have a son, then all the responsibility would fall on you," Amelia explained. The notion of perpetuating this cycle of expectations for generations to come overwhelmed me. This is too much. I don't think I can do it," I confessed. She settled into my lap as I sat on the bathroom floor, wrapping her arms around my neck and resting her head against mine. "William, my love, you're the strongest man I know," she murmured, gently patting my chest. "I trust you with my life because I know you have the strength to do what's necessary for me and for us. I love you with all my heart, but this decision has to be yours. I'm going to pack for the week," she continued, "and I have complete faith that you and I will stand together at the altar on Saturday and get married, with all that entails." With those words, Amelia rose, leaving me on the bathroom floor in silence as she gathered her belongings. I felt numb, losing track of time, but at least I didn't succumb to nausea again. Kneeling before me, she took my hands in hers, her eyes reflecting sincere love. I knew she cared for me deeply, and the thought of this situation straining our relationship pained her. Yet, I also knew she wouldn't yield to it. "When you've made your decision, call my parents' house," she instructed softly. "This will be the last time I see you before our wedding. You'll need to either invite my mom for Friday night or ask for our rings back. I trust you'll make the right choice." "Would you like me to help you up, baby?" she offered, concern etched on her face. "No, I think I'll stay here for a while," I replied. She kissed my forehead before leaving the apartment, and that night I found myself sleeping on the couch, unwilling to face the emptiness of our bed without her. The following morning greeted me with the same sense of solitude, if not intensified by the emotional weight of the previous day. The thought of breakfast turned my stomach, so I opted for a walk instead. The fresh air offered some solace as I revisited the daunting scenario before me. All I could dwell on was how fundamentally wrong the situation felt, yet I had nowhere else to seek guidance. My traditionally minded parents would likely be incensed at the notion, and might even insist I sever ties with Amelia and her family to avoid discussing it with them. As for the rest of my extended family, they offered no solace either. Eventually, I realized there was only one person who could possibly provide a perspective. Eyes who had experienced something similar. It felt awkward broaching the topic, considering we'd been discussing how I was going to spend time with his wife. But I saw no alternative. If I couldn't come to terms with this somehow, I'd have to demand our rings back, a prospect I dreaded. Returning to the apartment, I dialed the number. "William, my boy," eyes greeted me. "I was wondering when you'd call after yesterday's bombshell. I suppose you need to talk." "Yes, sir," I replied. "Would you be available today? Let's meet at Chill's pub around 7:20. We'll grab a beer, grab a bite, and hash everything out," he suggested. "Thank you, sir," I said gratefully. The day dragged on until finally 7:20 approached. Arriving 7 minutes early, I found Amelia's father already seated in the secluded back booth, affording us some privacy. I approached and took a seat. "Thank you for making time to meet with me, Sir William. We've known each other for a couple of years now. I think you can drop the sir part. It's Liam or even Dad if you're comfortable, but definitely not sir. And I've been waiting for your call, though it took longer than I expected. By what Amelia said, Liam, I'm sorry, but calling you Dad seems a little premature right now. So, you're considering breaking up with Amelia. I've contemplated nearly everything, including joining a local monastery and dedicating my life to God, from what my daughter relayed. It would be a great loss to exclude you from the male population, if you catch my drift. So I hope you'll rule out that option." My thoughts wandered to Amelia sharing intimate details of our lives with her parents, or more specifically, with her father. He noticed, apologizing, "I'm sorry, William, but we're quite open about these things. It's not a big deal if everyone is transparent. So, what can I tell you, my boy?" He continued. "I think my first question is, how do you feel about this, William? I couldn't deny that the notion of another man being intimate with my wife filled me with unease. I imagined drowning my sorrows in alcohol for the night, then seeking refuge in a nearby hotel. But I knew what I was getting into when I agreed to it with Harper 23 years ago, and I'll uphold my end of the family pact." "Did you never think about it when your wife was pregnant?" Liam inquired. "I hoped for a boy, of course, yes, and not because I envisioned the joy a son could bring home." "How did you reconcile going through with it?" "I've always been taught that being in a committed relationship, even if not married, means exclusivity. I understand that, in this case, everyone's aware and has consented, but it still conflicts with my upbringing. And only you can decide how you'll apply these values in your life, William," Liam acknowledged. "For better or worse, we're raised according to our parents' beliefs. But as adults, we must evaluate these teachings and decide if they align with our own convictions." I nodded, acknowledging his perspective. "Just because I was raised a certain way doesn't mean I have to subscribe to it," I concurred. "Exactly," Liam affirmed. "You're an adult now, William, and you have to determine what's right for you. It's part of exercising free will. However, if you find the proposed situation morally objectionable, it will undoubtedly be challenging to overcome. Let's suppose, just for a moment, that you had no moral qualms about being intimate with a woman other than Amelia. What else about this situation troubles you?" "The first thing that springs to mind, well, Liam, I paused, gathering my thoughts. My initial concern is how I'll face you afterward. Would it be awkward, knowing I shared a bed with your wife, and you're aware of it?" A wide grin spread across Liam's face, leaving me puzzled. "You know, William," that was the very first thought that crossed my mind. "How am I going to stand at the altar and look Lucas in the eye, knowing I've just spent the night with his wife? Not to mention, for the rest of my life, I mused. So I did what you did, I called him. Just like I've been waiting for your call." He did the same. "It's funny how things seem to repeat themselves," Liam remarked, reflecting on the cyclical nature of life. "It seems like this scenario has played out nearly every time. What kind of man, after discovering he's supposed to spend the night with his future mother-in-law, knowing the family's fully aware, wouldn't have any qualms about this?" He continued, his tone earnest. "You had a similar meeting with Amelia's grandfather, much like we're having now, I assume, and he imparted the same wisdom that I'm about to share with you, William. It's something you need to hear," Liam asserted, setting down his glass and fixing me with a serious gaze. "I understand this tradition, as they call it, is unconventional, but the women in this family are fiercely devoted to their men. William, I can guarantee you'll never have cause to doubt Amelia's loyalty or integrity. She'd sooner die than bring you any embarrassment or doubt your love and loyalty," Liam declared emphatically. "And that unwavering commitment to her partner is one of the many things that drew me to Amelia in the first place. First and foremost, your marriage will be the envy of all men. I know it might sound odd coming from a father speaking about his daughter, but for the entirety of your life together, she'll be the epitome of elegance in public, while revealing a more adventurous side behind closed doors, he remarked, causing me to feel my cheeks flush at the lucasness of his words. The knowing smile that played on his lips confirmed he noticed. She won't hold back in the bedroom. If you think the past few years have been satisfying, you've barely scratched the surface. But let me assure you, no other man would dare to even cast a glance her way, let alone make advances, knowing what I know. He continued, his tone unwavering. Even with the prospect of Friday night looming, I can guarantee you, without a shadow of doubt, it will be worth it. Lucas would have told you the same. I love Gabriella with every fiber of my being, and I'd do anything for her. I'd drop dead this very second if that's what she wished. That's how much she means to me. And come Friday night, if you make what I believe is the right decision and proceed to marry Amelia with Gabriella by your side, don't hold back. Embrace it and ensure Gabriella does too, he urged, his words weighing heavily on me. It felt surreal to engage in such a candid conversation with a man about the prospect of being intimate with his wife. You and Grandma Harper, I began, struggling to find the right words, but he seemed to understand my unspoken question. It's just remarkable, William. Of course, times have changed significantly. You and Amelia have far more experience than Gabriella, he reassured, acknowledging the shifting dynamics of relationships over time. As our wedding day approached, Harper became not only a delightful conversationalist, but also a mentor in understanding how to satisfy a woman. Gabriella often expressed her gratitude to her mother for this, but it's common knowledge, isn't it? Is it peculiar, you might wonder? Quite the contrary, William. Since everyone's aware, there's no need for secrecy. It's simply a part of life, universally accepted as normal. So it's not a topic that's actively discussed. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's taboo. It's just not particularly significant. You might find yourself casually asked about it if you grow close with others, and it could come up in conversation over the years, much like any other life event. But you won't have people coming up to you saying, "Wow, can't believe you were intimate with Gabriella. Was she attractive?" Or questioning any peculiarities between you and Harper. As for my relationship with Gabriella, I wasn't concerned at all. In fact, it gave us a deeply personal bond, strengthening our connection not only to each other, but to the entire family. After finishing our drinks, I thanked Liam for his insights. He easily assuaged my worries about how Amelia's family would view our relationship. It seemed that if I agreed to it, it would simply be seen as a part of family life, no different than if Gabriella and I had spent an evening bowling together. But I still grappled with one issue. Agreeing to it meant accepting the knowledge that one day Amelia would share that same intimacy with another man, provided we had a daughter, as all 5 generations of Amelia's family had only produced daughters. This puzzled me, given the assumption that a male's contribution determines the sex of the child. Despite these doubts, Liam remained firm that his marriage to Gabriella was worth it. If I were an outsider looking in, I would have advised against it, warning that she'd inevitably cheat. Yet, not only did I not flee, I found myself almost certain I would go through with it. The week dragged on, my productivity at work suffering as everyone around me knew I was getting married on Saturday. Fortunately, their supportive attitudes allowed me to focus on the impending commitment. Despite typically being composed, I found myself unable to dial the number on my phone. Thursday afternoon had arrived, and decision loomed imminent. The thought of Amelia being intimate with another man, even decades down the line, continued to plague me. I'd attempted to push past this mental barrier several times, only to be confronted by the intrusive image, and hesitate once more. Since my conversation with Liam, neither Amelia nor her family have reached out, honoring their promise to give me space to make this weighty decision. Their approach surprised me. I'd anticipated some form of pressure. Instead, it provided me with understanding and left the choice entirely in my hands. I couldn't help but wonder what Amelia was going through. Had my indecision strained our relationship? Would she question my love for her? As I headed home, I stopped to grab some takeout, determined to make a decision and place a call. I mulled over every angle, but ultimately it boiled down to one question. Was I better off with or without Amelia, given what lay ahead in 20 years? The answer was clear, and I made my choice. With resolve, I dialed Liam and Gabriella's home number, and Amelia answered, recognizing my caller ID. "Hi, honey. We've been waiting for your call," she greeted, her tone betraying her apprehension about my decision. "Hi, Amelia," I responded, pausing for emphasis. "May I speak to your mother, please?" Her audible relief was palpable even over the phone. "Of course you can, baby," she replied, and at exactly 7:20 p.m. Gabriella knocked on the door. It was decided that Gabriella would come over to my place to kick off the evening. The thought of picking her up where Liam and Amelia were seemed awkward enough, let alone picking her up in the morning. "Hi, Gabriella." I stumbled over my words, feeling the weight of the situation. "And William, Mom," she responded. "Since we're going to spend the evening together, let's drop the formalities and use our first names." "Okay. Sure, yes," I agreed nervously. "Can I come in now?" Gabriella asked, breaking the tension. "Oh, of course," I said, stepping back from the door and feeling a bit foolish. I hadn't felt this nervous before, not even close. Suddenly, I even worried about my performance later on. "William, I know this is a bit strange, but I'm just a woman, like anyone else," Gabriella reassured me, sensing my unease. "I appreciate your attempt to calm me down. I assure you, I'm just like any other woman, at least to me. But I'll try to think of you that way." "Would a drink calm your nerves?" I offered, trying to lighten the mood. "I probably shouldn't be more nervous than I am right now." Gabriella laughed, and the tension eased. We entered the bedroom, where Gabriella placed her bag on Amelia's dressing table before heading out for dinner. At a cozy Mexican restaurant, tucked away in a corner booth, Gabriella broached the topic. "William, let's discuss what's going to happen later," she said luciously. "You mean when we—" I trailed off, surprised by her openness. "Yes, exactly," she affirmed. It was a stark contrast to the reserved approach I was accustomed to. I grew up in a family where discussing such matters was akin to doing it on the living room floor in front of the parish priest. It just wasn't done, I admitted. "Honestly, I prefer this straightforward approach," I confessed. "You never have to worry about saying the wrong thing. William, when we're in bed, I want to ensure there's no confusion about what I expect. And you should do the same," Gabriella explained. "I don't want any hesitation. If you want to do something, just go for it." "Like what?" I asked, still adjusting to the candid conversation. "Anything, William." "Anything at all," Gabriella replied, leaving no room for ambiguity. "I'm someone who thoroughly enjoys the pleasures of the bedroom in all its forms. I aim to satisfy you and expect the same in return. Amelia has mentioned several times that you're quite skilled in this department, so I'm looking forward to being impressed. It's never been Liam's fault. I've tried to spice things up myself on numerous occasions, so I won't hesitate to take charge after you've done your part, or to kiss you after you've pleasured me. And of course, what always seems to be the main event. I absolutely expect you to explore other entrances. I'm quite fond of it, in fact. I was the one who encouraged Amelia to try it with you, and you know how much she enjoys it. In short, I'm open to absolutely anything, so just go for it." Her bold speech left me stunned, but the smile on her face indicated that this was precisely what she desired. "I'm not sure what to say," I admitted. "The experience should be enjoyable, William." "I want us to have fun," she reassured. "Is there anything you'd like to try that you think I might object to, or anything you're uncomfortable with me doing to you?" she inquired. "After what you've just said, I'm not sure there's anything else," I confessed. Gabriella grinned. "May I ask how you personally feel about all of this? Or perhaps how you felt about it when you were a bride-to-be?" I queried. Girls in the family are raised knowing what lies ahead. In fact, I was quite excited about the idea, as was Amelia, she revealed. "I'm not sure if she mentioned it to you, not explicitly. She made it clear that it was necessary, and she didn't seem to have any reservations about it, but she didn't express excitement about it either." Well, she would have if she could. She even asked if we could film it. I told her it was something personal between you and me, not for her eyes. And you didn't have any issues with how it affected your marriage with Liam, given his close relationship with your mother. I didn't have any concerns. It brought us all closer together. It's just 1 or 2 nights in a long and happy marriage. And he was with the woman I love more than anything in the world. I was happy to share it with her, and vice versa. I hadn't considered that Amelia not only decided to share her mother with me, but also to bring us closer together. The woman who raised her, and was closer to her than anyone else in the world. In fact, it was somewhat of an honor for me, though I didn't realize it until now. Hold on a moment. Did you just say 1 or 2 nights? I thought it was a one-time occurrence. The family uses these occasions to, let's say, revive some of those moments. While I'm spending the night in your bed, where do you think Liam will be? He mentioned he'd likely get drunk and oversleep at the hotel, finding it difficult to think about you and me together. No dear, Liam is with my mother right now, isn't he with Harper? Well, that's entirely up to them, but Harper is already over 60. Though my parents are still quite active. Mom might not get going on her own anymore, but they have ways to help with that. She still loves her time in bed very much. I wouldn't be surprised if they become close. I just lowered my gaze and shook my head as this new information sank in. So, I might have to endure Amelia doing it again. Damn it. As if reading my mind, Gabriella added, yes, it means Amelia can actually do it twice. But don't forget, it also means you'll have me twice. William, I know this is all quite difficult to accept, but we've been doing this for generations. We've never had a divorce, and as far as I know, none of the men have ever regretted their choice. But what about the morning after? I mean, you'll be leaving me after spending the night, and then meeting your husband, who likely just spent the night with your mother. Wouldn't that be awkward? Only if we let it be. But the truth is, what we're doing brings us all so close together that it seems entirely natural. And we have what I guess you could call a ritual that helps with that. A ritual. When I leave your apartment tomorrow morning, William, I'll expect to freshen up in your shower before I go. I've got everything I need in my bag, including clothes specifically chosen for this. Then I'll head back home and reintroduce myself to my husband. He'll do whatever he thinks is necessary to reclaim me as his woman. And then we'll go and give our beautiful daughter to the man of her dreams. And our lives will go on, just as they have for the past 23 years, as a devoted couple who love each other deeply. Nothing has ever threatened that, and nothing ever will. As all of this sank in, one thought kept repeating in my mind. I didn't want to live without Amelia. But if that was the price, could I live with it? In that moment, I made my decision. I looked up and met Gabriella's gaze. Gabriella, I think the time for talking is over. It's time for me to take you back to my apartment and go through the thorough process you expect. Now you're talking like a man, darling, she said with a smile. I settled the bill, and we headed back to my place. Anticipation gripped me the entire way home, and I couldn't wait. We opted to take a shower beforehand, likely the first of several we would share, and I couldn't help but admire her as she undressed, appreciating her form with genuine interest. William, very much so, Gabriella replied, meeting my gaze. You are incredibly kind. Amelia mentioned you prefer things smooth, so I made sure to accommodate. Liam, well, he has different preferences. I grinned as Gabriella stood before me, hands on her hips, presenting herself. She looked stunning, regardless of age, but especially for a woman of 45. Gabriella, let's make a pact, I proposed. She arched an eyebrow curiously. I love Amelia deeply, and I know your love for Liam is unwavering. I promise to set aside any reservations and make love to you the way you desire and deserve. But let's agree to leave their names out of it just for tonight. Deal? She chuckled and nodded. Agreed. The specifics of that night will forever remain a secret between Gabriella and me. I had some experience prior to meeting Amelia, but being with a mature woman was an entirely different experience. While Gabriella might not have had Amelia's energy or flexibility, she possessed a set of skills worth exploring at least once in her lifetime. We managed to catch a bit of sleep, though not much. I was determined to give it my all if I was going through with this, and I hoped Gabriella hadn't exaggerated about how wonderful it would be. But deep down, I was optimistic. Though lacking the love Amelia and I shared, we explored all the things Gabriella had mentioned and even ventured into some unspoken territory. We christened every room in our modest apartment, and I think we were both a tad disappointed when the time came for her to return to her husband. It was truly wonderful, William. I haven't felt this alive in years, and tonight will always hold a special place in my heart. I'll cherish the time we shared forever. Seeing my daughter so happy, and your willingness, Gabriella, to embrace our tradition, makes me feel incredibly fortunate. I'll carry this memory with me always. I had my doubts about our family tradition, but experiencing it firsthand, I can't deny its significance. Generations can't be wrong. Gabriella bid her farewells, and as she embarked on her journey back home, I finally powered on my phone, greeted by a flood of missed calls and messages from Amelia, Gabriella, and Liam. I opted not to reach out to my own parents, knowing they were supportive of my decision. However, Amelia's call caught me off guard. "Darling, where are you?" "Everyone's here, and my father is ready to walk me down the aisle." "But you're not at the altar," she exclaimed anxiously. "Do you really expect me to marry someone who I know will betray me in the future, after everything I've been through?" "I don't want to see or hear from you anymore," I responded firmly, cutting off any further discussion. Amelia's voice cracked with emotion as she tried to explain, but I had heard enough. "Are there any other traditions in your family that I should know about?" "Abby, I'll have to do this with your grandmother after our first daughter is born," I retorted, frustration evident in my tone. "Honey, your mother was incredible, and I can't deny her the chance to experience it again with a younger man, your future husband. You wouldn't deny her that opportunity, would you?" she pleaded before I ended the call and sped off. As I drove, I contemplated my future, hopeful that I would find a woman who wouldn't expect such traditions, someone who valued love and commitment above all else. Perhaps, I thought, I might even become a cuckold twice over.